Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode 126 of the Overlap Podcast. And if you're new to the Overlap Podcast, we discuss and study the overlaps between work, fitness, family, faith, parenting, and leadership. Really, with the idea that becoming better in one aspect of your life helps you become better in all aspects of life. And we simplify big business brilliance for small business leaders.
I love that line.
That's a catchy line.
And that we wouldn't have never had that line had we not had our L10
Yeah, L10
quarterly.
Quarterly meeting too. So welcome to another episode of the Overlap Podcast. We really appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you for liking and sharing. We've gotten a lot of feedback over the last, really most of the podcasts we've done over the last 3 or 4 months. Seems like we're hitting our stride, perhaps. Because, man, I think I've gotten more feedback in the last 3 or 4 months than ever. So maybe we're starting to figure this thing out.
Maybe we're actually making an impact. Like, is our job to do as humans.
Maybe. So yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys reaching out and messaging, or if you see me saying something, and it really does. It's been not unnoticed, and I really appreciate it. So, episode 126, and we got a specific topic for you that I think goes undiscussed, and it really seems like it's everyone thinks they know what the answer is, and it's not quite as black and white. Like many important things, there's nuance to it. So let's get it started, Keith.
This is often said, and I think it's been put in like business culture to ask for this if you're going to apply for a job.
Sure.
And I don't even know that people understand what they're asking for when they ask for it. But it's just something I think that's been termed in the business world. And it comes with a lot of empty endings if you ask me.
Okay.
And that would be incentive plans. Like, think about it. How many times have you heard, what's your incentive plan? What's your incentive plan? And when I was looking for work in the corporate world, I was there for 9 years. Every job I applied for, I would say, what's your incentive plan? And trying to look for some motivation of why you want to work there, but it never really came down to that if you ask me.
Yeah. So in this discussion, this topic came from I was in I think I mentioned it in a couple of podcasts ago, just pulling together information. I'm in this board, sort of like a peer group, but it's way more than like a mastermind or like a regular peer group. But either way, the discussion came up from someone on the board trying to achieve a certain goal and was throwing around loosely, and that's a different topic of discussion, but his strategic plan was not well defined and just plugged in with incentives. We should blah, blah, blah. Right. So the discussion then took a turn towards, well, what incentive plan? What are you talking about? What are you trying to accomplish with that? How is it going to work? And it really drove home to me that, like I said at the beginning, that there are incredibly large amounts of nuance when it comes to incentive plans.
Thanks, Sid and Keith, for allowing me this opportunity to explain why Pro 356 Consulting is back, again, sponsoring and supporting the Overlap podcast. Number one, I just have found that this is a great podcast, that I share your values of the overlap concept, and I have found just so many great nuggets from listening to you guys. Number two is I remember when you approached me at Hatch about starting a podcast, and I said, hey, that's why we built that podcasting studio at Coastal, and you guys took it up, and here we are. You've done 100 broadcasts, and now you're on the way to 200. And lastly, I just want to say that I just appreciate the way you guys do business, and I want to associate with you. So Pro 356 is glad to be back as a promoter and sponsor of the Overlap podcast.
Hey guys, this is Keith. Let me break down a scenario for you. Are you a business owner that is overwhelmed by the options of investing, but you're being told you need to invest in retirement, you need to invest in mutual funds, you need to buy some single stocks? Well, I have your fix. C2 Wealth Strategies, ran by our friend Wes Cody. Their website is c2wealth.com. If you are looking at investing at all and are confused by it, give them a call today. They will be happy to handle whatever you need. He's brought up very specific things that I need to be working on as a business owner in my investing life. Let him do that same thing for you. c2wealth.com, or go to the overlaplife.com page and click on sponsors.
Let me tell you about one of our sponsors, Chris Drogmiller. He's with CMD Fencing. One, I really appreciate his support to the podcast. He listens to the podcast, but long before that, he has done several projects for me at my home, at our business, and the dude just does an awesome job. One of the things I really like about him is it's basically just him and someone that helps him. His attention to detail is phenomenal. The work is always high quality. If you've ever had a fence built, you know that the gate itself and how it opens and shuts is kind of the stamp of quality. It always works well. I've made him make some interesting kind of fencing where it's all horizontal. He had no problems with that, did a great job. And the guy is freaking awesome. He's easy to work with and he does a fantastic job. He's a firefighter. So, he works 2 days on and 2 days off. So he comes in and knocks my project out on the days that he's off. And the dude's awesome. You can find him on our website, overlaplife.com. You can find him on Facebook, CMD Fencing. And let's see, his phone number is 901-484-5546. So if you need a fence, need some fence work, call Chris Drogmiller, CMD Fencing. Lots of things were thrown out there, and I've gotten better about not taking these thrown out statements as if they're facts and doing a little research. And really what was said was that there's been like 30 years and 1,200 case studies or studies done on incentive plans, and it all says that they don't work, right? And so, coming back, and Keith and I have talked quite a bit about EOS, and one of the core tenets, besides the meeting structure and accountability charts and things of that nature, are the need and almost requirement for clarity breaks, right? Or thinking time in the Keith Cunningham world. It's called thinking time. They're the same thing though. And so I took a clarity break to just ask that question. And so I did a little research and really found what I thought was the best source of information, which was a Harvard Business Review journal report.
Which always makes me feel smarter when I read it.
Well, with that name, it sounds like it's coming from a little more reputable source, and I did read the entire article, and it's not incredibly lengthy, but it's lengthy, it's in depth, and it seemed well measured, and it did cite a number of cases over 20 or so years, might have been 30. And it had a lot of things to say, and I thought we should talk about that. We should discuss incentives and incentive plans, and maybe the misconceptions about them, and then really what our opinions are of them. And I thought this would be a timely and helpful episode. So here we go. So the the article is incentive plans cannot work, I believe.
It's by a guy named Alfie Kahn. And I just want to point out, like, if you look at his books, he's very steeped in the reward psyche of an individual. I mean, unconditional parenting, punished by rewards, no contest, beyond discipline, are just some of the titles of his books. And it says that he is a human behavior psychologist, basically, that he works in the area of education, parenting, human behavior, all that good stuff.
Well, and it's an older article too, so I don't want to like mislead anyone. It's a little old, but I thought it was pretty good. So just to kind of get going, I wanted to sort of talk about some of the quotes that really hit me. And number one was, we're talking about incentive plans or not, but by contrast, training and goal setting programs had a far greater impact on productivity than did pay for performance plans. That quote really is saying that incentive plans, and they talk about it. I'll just kind of go back to it, but incentive plans, he's saying they don't work. He's saying that they cause more harm than the intended outcome from the person that sets them up. For instance, golly. So basically, what you're setting up with an incentive plan, everyone has an idea. The business owner has an idea about if I put a bonus structure on saving lumber or something. You know, we're carpenters, and we want, instead of running through, 15,000 2x4s this year, if we can still do the same amount of work and only run through 14,000, that's going to give us is to say there's an extra $20,000, and we'll take, the company will take 15 and we'll split 5 amongst the crew. That seems like uh that seems well intended, right?
Right.
What you get, though, are behaviorist theory derived from work with laboratory animals is indirectly responsible for such programs as piecework, pay for factory workers, stock options for top executives, special privileges according to employees of the month, and commissions for salespeople. Indeed, the livelihood of innumerable consultants has long been based on devising fresh formulas from computing bonuses to wave in front of employees.
So what you get is temporary compliance.
Contemporary compliance is what he's saying. He's like, man, you might be well intended, but you got all of these ideas from this whole industry basically covering their butt, trying to like solve a problem quickly for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, have you ever offered your kid something for being good for a short period of time?
Yeah. If you don't get in trouble all week, we'll go get ice cream.
Yeah, we're going to church today, and if you're good while you sit in church, I'll buy you a toy.
Yeah.
When they get the toy, it goes out the window.
Yeah. And at some point, they're going to mess up and they don't get the toy,
Yeah.
So we'll get to that. Either way, with that statement, he's really saying that there is a whole culture of incentive plans that permeates through business, starting through consultants and behavioral theorists and everything else, that he claims is pretty flawed. Where does he go? The list of variations on a simple behaviorist model of motivation is limitless. And today, even many people who are regarded as forward thinking, those who promote teamwork, participative management, continuous improvement, and the like, urge the use of rewards to institute and maintain these very reforms. What we use bribes to accomplish may have changed, but the reliance on bribes on behaviorist doctrine has not. He's like, you're just bribing people to do the right thing. And he's making the claim that you shouldn't have to bribe people to do the right thing.
Well, it goes back to culture, right?
Yeah.
It goes back to what culture are you permeating inside of your business?
Yeah.
And so if you want that culture where you have to reward for good action, then incentive plans may be the way to go.
Yeah. And here it is sort of distilled down in a statement. Rewards do not create a lasting commitment, and if we're building businesses, that's what we want. They merely and temporarily change what we do. You know?
Yeah, going back to the toy and the kid.
Yeah. It goes further. As for productivity, at least 24 studies over the last 3 decades have conclusively shown that people who expect to receive a reward for completing a task or for doing that task successfully simply do not perform as well as those who expect no reward at all. Isn't that shocking? Now, I'm not saying this is fact. I'm just saying this guy is kind of in the know. It sounds like, and there's, 3 decades and at least 24 studies. Uh, these studies examined rewards for children and adults, males and females, and included tasks ranging from memorizing facts to creative problem solving to designing collages. In general, the more cognitive this is a pretty good one. In general, the more cognitive sophistication and open-ended thinking that was required, the worse people performed when working for a reward. So, if you need people to be thinkers and solve problems, rewards aren't going to get you anything. And we'll get to that in a second too. Um, what are your thoughts on that? That
My thoughts on
seems
that is
counterintuitive, right?
well, I don't know, because think about it. When I have a reward that I'm working towards, I only do what's needed to get to that reward.
Mm,
Nothing greater.
mm,
So what I think is a very linear thought process to get to how do I get to the reward? Not how do I set up long-term success.
mm-hmm.
And so I think if we want our team members to be with us long term, they need to ask themselves, how do I do this job to the best of my abilities to set up long-term success, not just go ring the bell? And so it's kind of the mice and the bell situation is put the food at the end of the tunnel, go and hit the bell, get the reward, and then I'm done.
Yeah. So, and I think what we're saying to the listener is, um, what I'm probably saying is more of a question. What are you trying to accomplish? Are you growing something where you're building a culture that is based on high performance and doing the right thing? Or are you creating a culture that is driven towards the short term reward system that you are attempting to create? Fair?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think people that listen to this is thinking that we're saying don't reward people for when they help you succeed.
Yeah,
But that's not what we're saying at all.
That's not what we're saying.
But-
And we'll kind of get to the final analysis and our understanding of the article, sort of coupled with our experiences at the end. But I want to give that at the end. I want to tease you to listen to the entire episode. And as a matter of fact, from our L10 today, we're actually getting good data on who's listening all the way through.
Yeah.
How many listen for, how many minutes and how many listen all the way.
Quit forwarding through your ads.
Yeah.
Listen to those.
Please. Okay. Why rewards fail? Why do most executives continue to rely on incentive programs? Perhaps it's because few people take the time to examine the connection between incentive programs and problems with workplace productivity and morale. There's a connection there. Rewards buy temporary compliance, so it looks like the problems are solved. It's harder to spot the harm they cause over the long term. Moreover, it does not occur to most of us to suspect rewards, given that our own teachers, parents, and managers probably use them. Do this and you'll get that. That's what you've been talking about, is part of the fabric of American life. Finally, by clinging to the belief that motivational problems are due to the particular incentive system in effect at the moment, rather than to the psychological theory behind all incentives, we can remain optimistic that a relatively minor adjustment will repair the damage. Over the long haul, however, the potential cost to any organization of trying to fine tune reward driven compensation systems may be considerable. The fundamental flaws of behavioralism itself doom the prospect of affecting long term behavior change or performance improvement through the use of rewards. So, and then it goes into there's 6 point framework that examines the true cost of an incentive program. Number one, pay is not a motivator. That is a tough one to swallow. I hear people say it and I kind of believe it because enough people have said it, but in my mind, it's so ingrained, like it said, in the culture or the fabric of American life. It's hard to swallow that pay is not a motivator.
It really is.
But when I internalize that, I'm like, I probably, you couldn't pay me enough to do certain things,
Right.
I don't know what that is, but I don't want to be a lawyer.
No,
I don't. I mean, I got pretty close to being one, or pretty close to just going down that path, and was like, man, no way. And you kind of hear all of the stuff, God, you'll make money and all that. I'm like, I'll find another way, So pay is not a motivator. Talks about that. Number 2, rewards punish. This is interesting. Many managers understand that coercion and fear destroy motivation and create defiance, defensiveness, and rage. They realize that punitive management is a contradiction in terms. What most executives fail to recognize is that
the Herzog's
observation is equally true of rewards. Punishment and rewards are two sides of the same coin. This was a really good point. Rewards have a punitive effect because they, like outright punishment, are manipulative. Do this and you'll get that is not really very different from do this or here's what will happen to you. In the case of incentives, the reward itself may be highly desired, but by making that bonus contingent on certain behaviors, managers manipulate their subordinates, and that experience of being controlled is likely to assume a punitive quality over time.
Well, going back to parenting there too. I mean, how many times have I manipulated my kid with a toy? Like a ton. Yeah.
Or screen time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, if you do that, if you be good,
get extra screen time.
And so what we're doing to our team members is we're saying, oh, if you be good, we'll do this.
Yeah.
Not if you just fulfill the mission of the company, but if you do this other thing. And our incentives may be fulfilling the mission of the company, but a lot of times I don't think they are.
Mm-hmm. Well, and here, and I'm not saying this is bad or not, I'm just trying to give information here. But know this about an incentive plan. Not receiving a reward is going to make people upset. Not hitting the mark and being able to make that bonus or whatever, in sometimes under circumstances that are not of their own, you're going to have to deal with a different problem than the problem you're trying to solve.
Let me ask you this:
having the incentive plan.
Do you think that the incentive plan may actually discourage teamwork? Sometimes,
yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And that's what he says, kind of in this next one. Rewards rupture relationships. Relationships among employees are often casualties of this scramble for rewards. That's what we're talking about. As leaders of the total quality management movement have emphasized, incentive programs and the performance appraisal system that accompany them reduce the possibilities for cooperation. Because everyone's they're going to try to get theirs. I got to get mine.
Oh, it totally does in sales. So I had certain territory alignments, and I would just manipulate the territory alignment so that I could get the customer.
Yeah.
I just go to an office that's in mine. Maybe the decision maker's not there, but I would just pull them to that side.
And let's say you've got 5 departments. in one company, and each department has its own little incentive program, and they should be working together. And what you think you're doing is increasing your pie, but at the same time, you're reducing cooperation and probably efficiency, creating some animosity, and overall reducing the overall pie. So you may have a larger slice, but it's going to be of a smaller piece of pie. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what you really do, here's a fancy word, you're just creating fiefdoms, these little departments with their leaders, ruling over their faction against this other group, and they're on the same team. And I've seen it, hence my very specific observation and example.
Right. Well,
So,
yeah, I bet, especially in service businesses, because everything's relying on everyone else.
yeah, man.
And so if you create departmentalization strife,
Yeah,
that could be a bad time.
And really, the customer is the one who suffers,
right.
But no one sees it that way because they think that's the culture that has been created, that I need to go ahead and make sure that my numbers are good.
Right.
Yeah.
How do I
yeah.
Manipulate to make my numbers better over the next department?
Oh yeah. Or I know that work should probably go to them, but we're going to go ahead and do it so we can keep more of that revenue. So it shows, so we're padding our numbers. Or, the customer's got a certain budget. Let's just steer them towards doing, I'm not saying this has happened, but I could see this happening. Let's just steer them towards something within our department, never mind what's probably best for them.
Right.
It's just not good. It's not good. So he closes that little section. Very few things threaten an organization as much as a horde of incentive-driven individuals trying to curry favor with the incentive dispenser. That's a tough one. So you created the incentive plan. You've got all these little groups out there trying to work to meet the requirements that you laid out there for them, which is kind of what you want to do, but they're sort of cutting each other's throat in the process, or cutting their legs out from underneath them, however you want to do that or phrase that. All right, number 4, rewards ignore reasons.
Dude, this is so good.
This is good. In order to solve problems in the workplace, managers must understand what caused them, or employees inadequately prepared are employees. I'm struggling to read today.
Dude, you went a little like who's the rabbit? The rascally rabbit.
Oh yeah.
Who's the
I don't know, Bugs Bunny?
No, yeah, but who was the dude for Bugs Bunny?
Oh, Elmer Fudd.
You went a little Elmer Fudd on that rascally rabbit inadequately.
Yeah. It's been a long week, y'all.
Yeah, it has.
Keith and I have been off our game for a week too.
Under the weather, feeling closer to 50. That's what I've been feeling.
Yeah.
I've never had an upper respiratory issue until this week.
Yeah. Well, so reward. Well, we'll get back on track here. Number 4, rewards ignore reasons. In order to solve problems in the workplace, managers must understand what caused them. Are employees inadequately prepared for the demands of their job? Is long-term growth being sacrificed to maximize short-term return?
We do that all the time.
Oh, man. Are workers unable to collaborate effectively? That's a good one.
Yeah,
so
but I really like is long-term growth being sacrificed to maximize short return? I've done that so much.
Yeah. And if you're incentivizing people, they're looking for that quarterly return. Never mind the long term.
The long game. People get off. This is something I've been preaching lately a ton, is the long game. You're in it for the long game.
Yeah.
And I think, especially in management, that a quarter is too short of a time to base any major result on.
Yeah, I think I think you can see good progress one way or the other, but over the course of a year, you'll have a much better understanding because every business is going to have flows and seasonality and um, drivers of motivation and drivers of stagnation,
But
all
in the
that stuff.
business cycle, we do base a lot on quarterly. What are we doing quarterly?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
again, that's part of the culture. That's part. I mean, that's even EOS too, right?
Right.
We're reviewing, but I think with the advent of the 5-year or 10-year plan, however you do it, everything keeps guiding you towards that. You can say with a little bit more ease and comfort that we'll sacrifice these quarters to get to there. We'll probably have another episode on that because I've been living in that world for the last 9 months. But either way, rewards ignore reason. And we just laid it out. When you think about it, it really does. Managers often use incentive systems as a substitute for giving workers what they need to do a good job. Treating workers well, providing useful feedback, social support, and the room for self-determination is the essence of good management. On the other hand, dangling a bonus in front of employees and waiting for the results requires much less effort. So,
Well, and then you've got another thing, you get caught in the wheel of reward because after that bonus, what are you going to incentivize them with?
oh yeah. That's one of the when I was waiting to get to the end, but that's one of the worst parts, is like, okay, that kind of worked right here. And everyone's got their hand out. The next phase or whatever, next round.
Yeah.
What are we going to do now, boss? I'm like, oh, God, I don't know.
So one of my favorite movies is basically a movie about this. Christmas Vacation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Remember,
I know.
he's waiting on his reward.
He's waiting on
he's waiting on the bonus at
for-
the end of the year
What
to
did he
build
say?
the swimming pool.
For 14 years, I've always gotten a bonus.
Yeah.
You don't want to give them fine, but when
Yeah.
people come to expect them and rely on them, I'm like, well, that's your fault, dude. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
But it's also really,
But it's
the
creating
leader's
system.
fault.
Yeah, it's creating the system of reward based
behavior.
Yeah.
And all of that. Yeah. Here's a good one. Number 5, and I'm with you on that. I've actually been using that forever. The anti-Christmas vacation plan. We'll get to some incentives that I do like. All right. Number 5, rewards discourage risk taking. This is one that I never thought of. For real. I never really thought of. And here's what the author says. People will do precisely what they are asked to do if the reward is significant. Enthuse Monroe J. Hagel, a prominent pay-for-performance proponent, Jesus, of for performance programs in the new performance measures. And there is the root of the problem. Whenever people are encouraged to think about what they will get for engaging in a task, they become less inclined to take risks or explore possibilities to play on hunches or to consider incidental stimuli. In a word, the number one casualty of reward is creativity.
Oh, definitely so. Because like I said a little bit ago, it makes us think very linear. When you think in a straight line, there's no creativity out of the straight line, right?
Yeah, here's another fancy word, and I can't think of anything else to say, but you get real myopic. You are just focused on that thing, and you don't see any possibilities outside of that. I do think, and if we go back up to number 4, and you sort of tie these together, good management trains people on how to do the job or what needs to be done, right? Give them the tools, whether that's a CRM that kind of helps them manage their contacts, or something else, some estimating software, or some type of equipment or anything else so they can do their job well, and then give them guardrails and kind of what they're trying to hit. And the right people are going to come up with creative ways to use those tools within those guardrails, and you get exponential growth instead of limited growth.
Right.
Because they're just focused on doing those things.
Correct.
You stifle creativity. And that's what he says. In a word, the number one casualty of reward is creativity. I think that was fantastic.
That's brilliant. I see that in every area when you put guardrails are great.
I like guardrails.
Right.
Everyone kind of needs those so they know if they're getting off the path. But zigzag, run straight, do whatever you want, however you want to do it. But these are the guardrails. But go and explore and try to figure out the best way to get that done, because maybe I don't have that. Maybe I'm not sure what the best way is. Maybe you got a better idea. It says here, rewards are the enemies of exploration. I love that. And then number 6, rewards undermine interest. That's interesting. If our goal is excellence, no artificial incentive can ever match the power of intrinsic motivation. People who do exceptional work may be glad to be paid, and even more glad to be well paid, but they do not do work to collect a paycheck. They work because they love what they do. There we go. That's nice to kind of end on that, right?
Yeah, I think that right there pretty much sums up, especially if you look at the culture now.
Yeah.
If you look at the latest generations, they're not motivated at all by pay.
Mm-hmm.
They're motivated. I mean, if you look at the data, Zers and millennials are totally motivated by what they're doing for the world.
Yeah.
What difference are they making? How do I make the biggest difference?
Yeah. And I think what this author's really saying is you're stifling all of that could be channeled towards something good, you know, and really because there's just tons of not well thought out or well thought through, and I'm throwing myself in that group, assumptions that incentive plans will just add to those qualities of the younger employment group and set them free to sort of give them direction, and it doesn't. It causes a myopic, unhappy, disinterested workforce.
Well, yeah, it stifles it. Well, that's because it stifles creativity in every way.
Yeah. And teamwork.
Right.
And everything else. So
it makes you very one track focused.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah. And so that's the article. And I love that. And I'm just gonna say that one more time. That last quote there, if our goal is excellence, no artificial incentive can ever match the power of intrinsic motivation. People who do exceptional work may be glad to be paid and even more glad to be well paid, but they do not work to collect a paycheck. They work because they love what they do. You may be saying, no one would ever love, entering data or being a bookkeeper. And I'm telling you, some people love it. Love it. I know a girl that sits in the dark and loves grinding on that stuff, just plugging in numbers, and she really gets a lot out of it, sending out a report and knowing it's right. And meeting a timeline going, yep, I got it all cleaned up by the 10th and I've got it out. I'm going to go celebrate.
The author says this too. He says, other theorists favor a more simple explanation for the negative effect rewards have on intrinsic motivation. Anything presented as a prerequisite for something else, that is, as a means toward another end, comes to be seen as less desirable.
Yeah.
The recipient of the reward thinks if they have to bribe me to do it, it must be something I don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I never really thought about rewards that way, but that is exactly true.
It is exactly true.
And so what we're asking you is to think, and what we're asking ourselves, because I just placed an incentive program in front of someone
there we go.
just this week. should we rethink that process?
Yeah.
Should we rethink how we're motivating our team members to perform, and is it even necessary what we're offering?
I'll tell you, I have started to rethink everything. I'll give you some thoughts on that in just one sec. But here's one other quote that I had that we didn't really touch on. But managers who insist that the job won't get done right without rewards have failed to offer a convincing argument for behavioral manipulation. Promising a reward to someone who appears unmotivated is a bit like offering salt water to someone who is thirsty. Bribes in the workplace simply can't work. They're either the right fit or the wrong fit, is what I think he's saying there.
Right.
It's either the right fit or the wrong fit. So, um, here are my sort of just quick notes, and I'm a simple guy, so I try to take that stuff and think about it as simply as possible. Do incentive plans work? My answer to that is, for the most part, no. Some things, maybe. I like some commission for salespeople, but I like a decent salary for someone so they're not going to starve if they don't sell. My goal with the salesperson is to reward activity, get out there and go sell something, but I don't want you to depend entirely on it. I want you to make more the more you work and the more you bring in. But I want you to serve the customer first, regardless of your commission. So the commission becomes less of a motivating factor.
Are you saying you don't like draws?
I've never had any experience with draws. Um, I've never had that experience.
No, I think that may be, and I don't think what we're saying here that commission-based pay fits in this category, because I don't think it does. Because as a former salesperson, most of the companies that I worked for, and maybe this was just a 90s thing or early 2000s thing, I had a draw. And I found it very motivational to beat the draw.
Yeah.
My whole goal was, let me give them back their money and make more than that.
Yeah. You're unlimited on the amount that you could bring in.
Correct.
Depending on how creative you can be.
Right.
Now,
So for sales, I almost think that, and typically the person that is wired to do sales wants that freedom.
Sure.
Because what I looked at when I was in sales was, the draw gives me freedom, because as long as I beat the draw, I'm paying you back.
Yeah.
So don't tell me what to do.
So here's where, and here's where I kind of run into or butt heads with salespeople. And it is, if the commission, and for most salespeople, it's not even the money, it's the game, right? It's just the game. They like winning. Most salespeople are kind of type A. They want to get out there. They want to make connections because they want to win. They want to be the number one salesperson. They want the little plaque or whatever, and that stuff. And I'm not knocking that. What happens is, and this is where I run into some issues, is that they will run over, or they will go outside the lines to get the sale. They'll write contracts outside of the scope. They'll sell things that we can't do very well. They'll all kinds of stuff. They'll sell outside of their territory. They'll manipulate the territory.
Yeah.
They'll do all kinds of things. And at the same time, they do kind of understand, and they're not too wrong about it, that it's everything in business starts with sales. They're putting gas in the tank, and then the operations people, kind of go and execute on those promises. But they can get a little big headed and think that, like, they're going to start making a bunch of shots here, but they've got a real limited view on how the whole system has to work. So if the commission gets too big, I think it really negatively affects cohesion and teamwork. Just my opinion. I don't know, but I like a commission but it's sort of a balancing act. I want you to make uh, decent money, base salary, because you're going to fill a role. You're going to represent us well, and you're actually going to serve the customer first. We're paying you for that. And you got to meet a certain sales goal. We're all on board with that because to pay you this, you've got to sell at least that. Can you do that? Yes. If you sell more than that, you got a little commission. Or on the way of selling that, you can have a little commission. Whatever.
Yeah, I think commission a lot of times causes rifts between salespeople and management.
Oh yeah, because there's always a little argument, and they're salespeople. They're going to try to
Yeah.
negotiate for something else, and that doesn't
especially
usually bother
especially
me.
when those salespeople make more than the manager.
Oh yeah, well,
Yeah.
I haven't ran into that
Well,
too much, but
I have a personal story about that. Yeah.
But I like those. I kind of like, if you've ever read The Great Game of Business, it's on our books, our book list, written by a guy named Jack Stack. And I like the fact that he lived all of this. This is just his playbook where he got everyone in a manufacturing plant. I can't really remember what they manufactured. I think it was parts for like tractors or something. But he got everyone from the shop floor to the janitor to the management all on the same sort of incentive plan where across departments, across, everywhere, they all were shooting for the same goal. So I like those incentive plans that try to break down walls from departments or silos as they're called, and try to bring everyone together. The problem is if you don't hit those goals, everyone gets a little bit disenchanted with the whole idea. You as the leader need to do everything you possibly can to make sure that they get those, and it builds more and more momentum as it keeps moving forward. So I like those two. Those are my two. I do think if you hire on core values and take your time and constantly improve your processes, you're going to do well. I think if you onboard well, take your time and improve that process, you're gonna have good people there. You're gonna set them up well. I think if you train people well, you're gonna have you're gonna have better people. You're probably gonna hit your goals better or more consistently, and hold people accountable.
I'm not one that really loves the word balance, but I almost think as employers, our goal should be overall life quality. And I don't know that incentive plans creates overall life quality for our team members. I don't know that you can give an incentive. I that's what I'm that's where I think it goes wrong.
Yeah.
Is it doesn't create an overall life quality. It creates momentary pleasure. And momentary pleasure never works.
Yeah, I think if you can tap into the intrinsic value of doing good work, that's where you get people motivated. The right people, obviously, motivated. And how you do that's going to be dependent on what you do. But if you can get your team fired up about serving customers well and getting positive Google reviews because they have such a good experience with you, I think they feel good and they see it visually. I like those. I think, in the landscape world, if you can get people fired up about doing good work and walking away and knowing that that's beautiful when you walk away, but it's even going to grow and mature into something even better. I think you can get people intrinsically motivated by those things. Yeah, I think that's probably the core motivation, and I think that's tougher to do. It takes longer. It certainly feels a little funny sometimes. I feel corny talking about those things, but and people might laugh a little bit, but when they're home alone or thinking about things and not too worried about looking or sounding cool, I think it does hit a hell of a lot better.
Yeah, I think if you've been given the gift to have people under your leadership,
Mm-hmm.
that your job, business owner, manager, whatever, parent, husband, your job is to create quality of life all the way around.
I don't know if it's my job to create quality of life, but what my job is there to do is to create an environment that if they're into this type of work, they can do well and they can do something they can be proud of.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Create
Yeah.
quality of life by what you've been given to manage, which
Yeah.
is your business.
Yeah.
And how do you manage that the best and create quality of life for the people that come and join your team?
Yeah.
Through that mechanism. Not, I don't mean you need to go and help them in their personal relationships.
Yeah. Well,
I would suck at that.
And I mean, yeah. So there's all kinds of things.
Yeah, but through what you've been given to steward, whatever that is. And you know that's my word for this year, is stewardship. Stewardship. Whatever you've been given to steward, does it create better quality of life for the people that you come along and join your team?
Yeah. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. So, I'm not saying you need to go do marriage counseling. You would suck at that.
That would be terrible. That'd be terrible. Yeah. Or parenting advice.
Yeah, me too.
Don't ask me. I'm still trying to figure it out. All right. So, do incentive plans work?
Let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, let us know. I think for the most part, no. I at least I know way more now about the pitfalls and the trappings of incentive plans. So I don't know.
We know that 70% of you own businesses, so you can contribute to this conversation. And we've been crushing LinkedIn.
Keith's been, we've been doing a good job.
We've been in the data, and we know who you are now.
Oh my God. We're not watching like the NSA though.
I mean, we know that half of you who subscribe to our newsletter are women.
47%.
47%.
Three said undecided.
I know.
I don't know what that means. I'm not sure.
Our non-binary group is growing. I don't know.
Yeah, 3%.
3%.
3%. It's about 3% more than I thought we had. That's okay. All right. Well, let's see. Thank you for listening. And please support our sponsors. Keith already said, hey, don't fast forward through the commercials. But you can if you just, if you listen to them every once in a while and kind of commit to possibly using these folks.
But then,
if you need their service.
And go to overlaplife.com. We have really upped our game there in every way. So we're proud of our website. And it's got really great tools on it. And the stuff we like section is awesome. So you need to go look at that.
Yep.
And by the way, if you want to be a sponsor, we have some openings on the site now.
Yeah, the web sponsorship.
Yeah, and it is the second best hit. Our sponsor page is the second best hit page on our site versus our homepage. So it is it's gaining attraction. So reach out to us. We'll tell you about that.
All right. Well, appreciate you guys listening. I think I'm out.
Peace.
Sid and Keith, when I was on your podcast, I shared my story of how I was $250,000 in debt, and then how I turned my business around and grew it into a highly profitable, multi-million-dollar lawn and landscape business. I'm Steve Bousquet, and we've created a program consisting of courses and coaching that guide people through the process and tools I use to turn my business around and grow it into a highly profitable, multi-million-dollar lawn and landscape business. You can find out more how I did this by visiting greenprofitacademy.com or by going to Amazon and buying our book, Profit First for Lawn Care and Landscape Businesses, right on Amazon.
Okay, guys, everyone knows if you're a business owner, a business leader, or you're just a person in the world needing help with accounting, you need a real partner. You need someone that's going to listen to you and not just plug numbers in to make their job easy to do your taxes. At least that's what I want. I've been through a lot of accountants in my life, and I have yet to find one even remotely as good as Johnny Barranco. He's the owner of Barranco and Associates, and he's the kind of guy that really doesn't manipulate your books to make his job easier. He really is trying to give you insights into your business or into your financial planning world. Whatever your goals are, he's there to help. And so I just encourage you to give him a call. Barranco and Associates, look him up online. It's barrancoandassociates.com and just see if he can help you. He really is the accountant that I recommend to everyone, even before he was a sponsor of the podcast. So please, if you need an accountant, just do yourself a favor and give him a call. Look, not all of you have to deal with workman's comp, but those of you that do know that it's time consuming and it's a headache. Insurance in general feels like something that happens to you rather than for you. But partnering with someone that really knows their stuff, like Chris May with LTN Insurance, you've heard him before on the podcast, offers you the opportunity to regain control of your insurance. By collaborating with Chris, you have the chance to craft a personalized plan that ensures you receive optimal coverage at the best price. At LTN Insurance, their foremost core value is centered on education rather than sales. Their core value actually says, we don't sell, we educate, because they truly believe in empowering you, the customer, with the knowledge to make informed decisions about your insurance. That's whether you do business with them or not. They want you to be informed. So you can trust Chris and look him up, give him a call, or go to the website ltninsurance.com.